And so the lesson that I want everybody to listen to is that please find time to evaluate. Before you build and have initiatives and goals and, 2024, yeah, but have you looked well at the past and see how we're doing?
Well, hey, everybody, you're listening to the Grow Leader podcast, where we grow leaders that grow churches by helping them reach their full potential. My name is Matt. We're so glad that you're here today, sitting right beside my pastor. It's the best time of the year, Pastor Chris.
It is. Isn't it awesome?
I love it.
It's been especially great around here because we do all the year-end stuff like our all-staff, which we'll talk a little bit about today, our legacy party that we have with all the people that have been so very generous to our church. Of course, gearing up for our Christmas services. Do you have any idea how many we're doing this year?
I think 113, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
it's really close to that.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. And I'll do 14 personally. So we kind of gear up for that. I always take a little break right before. I call it the Christmas push. And people have asked me, Chris, why do you do this? And my response is, well, let me back up and say the reason why they ask that is because most people think of the holidays as something they get to enjoy for themselves. But my thought is, it's not my birthday. This is Jesus. Right. I'm gonna serve him. I'm gonna serve his. And I'm not trying to sound all high and mighty or anything, but it's my honor, honestly, to honor him with his birthday by all these services. And I'll take my break after Christmas, and that's my routine, which we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well.
Love the season of the year. And one of the things we wanted to do today in the episode, we've been talking about this for a couple months, was we get questions from a lot of you, lots of questions, and a lot of them tend to hover around the same areas. If you have questions, feel free to send those in to us, info@growleader.com. I want to ask you questions not on the page.
Because we're gonna have this little Q&A segment as an ad. We're gonna try it for a few episodes. See how the people like it.
So a lot of people that listen are senior leaders in their churches,
right?
But a lot of people not senior leaders, maybe parents, business leaders. But in the Christmas service, tell us what you do in a Christmas service at Church of the Highlands, because this is unique and not every senior leader does it. But I love it. You're not just prepping in the back.
No, I do take the occasion that is Christmas, since we'll have double whatever we're averaging.
Okay.
So that's how many attend Christmas. So, and a lot of them are going to come to Grants Mill. And so even though we are a multi-site church, they love to take the occasion that is Christmas to come to the broadcast location. And it's really, it's to experience it from the Grants Mill perspective. Right, okay. But since I know that to be true, I spend a lot of time, but before services and after services, between services, shaking as many hands as I can. Seriously, going very, very slowly through the crowd. And I'm exhausted when it's over, but it's one of the best things that I get to do every year.
It's just a great reminder for all of us. Spend time with your people, get out in the seat, shake hands, give high fives. All right, here's the question that was asked by our listeners.
Okay.
That was my question. All about leadership development, a lot of questions around leadership development. How do you continue to develop leaders to go to new levels of leadership?
Yeah, so you do that organically, but also intentionally. And so everybody that's any type of a leader is already doing it organically, so I won't talk about that. In other words, you're just doing it naturally by developing people, because that's who you are. But the people who do it exceptionally well, Matt, have an intentional process for it. So that's what I encourage people to do, is like, you got to have something in your calendar where you're saying, hey, I'm going to develop some leaders. I just left my office area. Lane Schrantz has an office next to me. He had a whole group of fourth semester students coming in his office as I was going out. And I said, who are all these folks? He goes, for the next hour or so, I'm going to be discipling these students. That's an intentional process. So everybody is where they are. We want to get them to another level.
Yep.
You've got to have a process to do that. And so you meet regularly, you study something together, you give them a project, you have them report back. So that's the process. So you're going to meet together regularly. Okay, you want to always study or read something, or have a curriculum plan, if you will, in your mind. You want to make sure that you give them a project. Hey, I want you to go see if you can, raise up a small group leader. Like, give them a project. Hey, I want you to whatever. I want you to go greet people in the foyers this Sunday at this location. Like, just give them some kind of project to say, hey, how was that? How did it work for you? What did you know? What did you not know? And so a project together helps them grow greatly, and then always have some kind of reporting system to come back to you.
Yeah, we had somebody ask about feedback culture, how you develop a feedback culture. If those kinds of things aren't happening, it's hard to have things to even have feedback about. So
exactly.
If you're having those kind of things happen all the time, there's something to talk about. It's an ongoing process.
And the organic side of leadership development is never minister alone. So you always think, who could I have brought to me to the podcast studio here at Highlands College? And then on the way out, tell them why I did that or why I said that. So you're always thinking of a way just to develop leaders to the next level.
And there's a phrase you told us at our all staff get together that we have twice a year with our entire team. You say this phrase, and hear the heart of it, but if I catch you doing ministry, you're probably not in the right spot. And what you mean is be empowering people around you to do the ministry all the time.
Yeah, because that's Ephesians 4. Ephesians 4 says he gave some to be pastors, evangelists, apostles, teachers, to equip the saints to do ministry. So the truth is the church staff aren't the ministers, we're the equippers of ministers. So my statement is even stronger than the way you said it.
I was trying to be very, very nice.
I noticed that, and that is, if I catch you doing ministry, I'll fire you. And everybody laughs, and I won't fire them.
Right.
But I'm trying to make the point that's not your job to be the minister. Your job is people, develop, lead teams. The way we said it, I said this to a pastor yesterday that I was coaching, and I said, we don't hire people to do jobs, we hire people to lead teams.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's the big mistake that churches make, is that every time there's a job, they think, well, we need a staff member for that. No, you don't. You need a team member who's going to use for us, the tens of thousands of the dream teamers to do that thing, which is very fulfilling for them.
So great. So we'll come back to frequently asked questions. We have a whole page of them here, and you guys keep asking your questions on the website. And so we'll get to those in later episodes. You were super, super excited. You love this time of year, first of all.
I love it.
You love finishing strong and also starting new.
Right.
It's one of the things that you're passionate about. How we start the year really matters to you. And just dig into that more and tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, because I want to talk about the topic today that I really feel like could help serve our listeners today is, how do you prepare for a new year? Like, how do you go into 2024 as strong as you possibly can? We just came out of a week of meetings of my lead team, and then the all staff, and every part of that was, hey, what can we learn from 2023? What are our growth drivers or our growth potentials in 2024? And then how am I going to plan and prepare for that new year? And you're always doing it on two levels. And that is the personal level and then the level that you lead in, or the corporate level, right? And so I want to give our listeners today 3 things that I do every year in December that I'm very passionate about. And it's not something I have to do. This is the most fun thing in the world for me to do. I love it. And that is evaluating the past. That's number 1. In other words, I'm going to do 5 things, and we'll put this in the show notes for everybody who's working out or driving or wishing they had a pen in their hand right now. And that is, we collect data. And I've been doing that, by the way, Matt, for the last 2 weeks. I've been collecting data that I need to know to go into these meetings informed of the health of the church. Right. So you collect data. I mean, everything. I want to know, how healthy are we? And then we have a number attached to that. I'm going to give the 10 areas that I collect in just a second. But we collect data. We evaluate results. In other words, you have to give calendar time to yesterday, not just tomorrow. So the way I learned it years ago was that you don't work just in it, you work on it. So if you're not careful, because Sundays come around every 6 days, you only find yourself thinking about the next thing that's coming up. When you forget to work on it, look back. So we give calendar time to evaluate results. And that's what we did in these past weeks of meetings that I had with my lead team and with the all staff. That is, I'm going to show them the numbers. I'm going to show them the data, but we're going to also say, what does this data mean? What does this mean? And it's very similar to the way you treat your body if you ever go get a physical. So they're going to get a bunch of numbers: your weight, your heart rate, right? They're going to get your cholesterol. They're going to get a boatload of numbers, and the combination of those numbers determines the health and what you know to work on, which gives you the next 2, and that is always celebrate the wins. That's the 3rd thing that we do in evaluating, is celebrate the wins, meaning don't be someone who's just always dissatisfied. Well, we can do more. Well, that's true, but can we pause for a second and say, look what God did do? And we had a moment this past week at our all staff where there's some areas I definitely think we should grow in, but man, we paused and celebrated and said, hey, way to go on this many people being saved and this many people being baptized. And could we do better? Of course we can. But don't be that kind of leader who doesn't know how to celebrate the wins you did have.
And practically how that looked is last year around this time, we came out of that December 22 all staff gathering with this. You set us on this mission, this goal that, hey, this next year we're going to know the one. Like we're really going to lean in to knowing individuals. And we really kind of started talking about, hey, it's not about how many were in the room, it's who was in the room. Let's know who was in the room. And so now that gave us a point of feedback the entire year. And now this year we get to look back at that and say, hey guys, you crushed it knowing the one. Like we really can evaluate that.
We launched the app, we did all these initiatives, and we celebrated those. So we collect the data, we evaluate the results, we celebrate the wins, and then the fourth one is we confront the facts. Because numbers always tell you that there's something that can be better. Mm-hmm. There's always a lowest slat of the bucket, so to speak. There's an area where the water's running out. Do you know what that lowest slat is? And every year, we go into this season trying to find the area that we need to work on the most. And of course, we're doing that this year. We're about to have come to our conclusion too. I use these meetings to come to the conclusion of what that is. But we're going to confront the facts that, hey, this wasn't strong. This wasn't as good as it needed to be. Like you had all these other numbers and indicators that are extremely strong, but hey, this one's not keeping up.
Do you feel like there are leaders that sometimes put this, maybe have this this view that everything's going to be great all the time? Because that can be anxiety inducing, can stress you out.
Yeah, and it's unhealthy, because if that were the case, if things are supposed to be healthy all the time, then they wouldn't need you.
Right.
So I always say that's why I have a job.
Right.
Because that's why they needed a leader. That's why I need a pastor. That's why they need someone that does this. And it's my joy, actually. I never get dissatisfied at something not being where I left it. That's the nature of things. Everything leaks. Vision leaks, values leak, and that's why we have a job. So collect the data, evaluate the results, celebrate the wins, confront the facts. And the last one is just get better. And it's my favorite question in the world is, how can we get better? And then more specifically, what one thing, if it got better, makes the biggest difference? It is my favorite question in the whole wide world. I challenge everybody who's listening to this podcast right now to ask that of yourself and ask that of the thing that you lead. That what one thing in your personal life, if it got better, would make you better? What's the most important thing to get better? And then ask it also of Church of the Highlands. I do think I know what that is. We haven't quite have the unanimous opinion of everyone, and I don't move forward on something until everybody agrees, yep, this is the one thing. Last year it was, we're going to know the one.
Right.
We will announce this new focus very, very soon for 2024 of, hey, this is the one thing that has to get better in 2024. But that's how we do it. Yeah.
And it matters organizationally, but as a leader, the minute you decide you're getting better in that area personally, you actually impact the entire organization, even just with that. Because I know last year I needed to get better with relationships. I think so many of my relationships have just been about church and work.
So good.
Getting things done. Well, the entire team, the culture was way better relationally because I decided, hey, I got to get better at relationships. It impacts the whole all the time.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do for our listeners today, and we'll put this in the show notes because this is way too much content, for even our time together. But there's 10 things we count and why we count them. So 10 dashboards, and then I have 12 personal ones. So that's 22 points. We obviously don't have time to unpack all of these, but I'll read the 10 things we count and why. We count attendance, but visitors and salvations. But you don't stop there. A lot of churches count only what I call nickels and noses. How big was the offering? How many came? That the Bible says go and make disciples.
Right.
So you have to have these other ones in order to really be, to live up to that expectation of the Lord. So we don't want just attendance and visitors and salvations, but we also want baptism. Are they taking the next step in baptism? Are they getting in a small group and being discipled? Are they on the growth track? Number 7, are they getting on a dream team, which for us is the real indicator? And then number 8, yes, we're looking at giving. Everybody that's listening to me that leads an organization is counting the money. No one not does that, but we have to study the trends of that. For us, it's expenses. Where do those get out of whack? I look at that. You might not even know this, Matt, that I actually look at our expenses trends? Where did we get off track? And now all of a sudden we're spending more money on something that we never used to do that.
Wow.
It's out of line. And that can happen so easy in an organization. I was talking to another pastor just last week where they unknowingly gave so many people spending power in the organization that the expenses went crazy. Like everybody had a church credit card and they had completely lost control of just the spending of that church. So that's very, very important. And the last is the staff, the health and the staff and the budget and all things related to staff. So those are the 10 things that I'm constantly monitoring as a dashboard. And then, of course, I've taught these 12.
Right.
We'll put them in the show notes, but my faith life, marriage, family, office, digital, ministry, financial, social, attitudinal, creative, mental, and physical life. I know it's a lot, but these are 12 dials that I'm constantly looking at. And every time I peer at this list, either over hours or in just 10 seconds, Matt, one of them always goes, I need you. Like I'm neglecting something on here that's gotten out of line.
It doesn't take that long to see. Once you look at it, you're like, oh.
Yeah, because I'm using the same dials over and over. And I would love for everybody to have something like this. Some way that you're going in, it's like the physical with your doctor, or it's like when they take your car to get the oil change, they're also checking everything else, the windshield wiper fluid. And that's not what the company is, but they're going to check that. They have these 30 points that they're going to check to make sure your car stays moving.
It's kind of like a system reboot.
Exactly.
The new operating system of your computer, like the old one's not working well enough, and so let's reboot the system and get going again.
And so the lesson that I want everybody to listen to is that please find time to evaluate. Before you build and have initiatives and goals and 2024, yeah, but have you looked well at the past and see how we're doing? The second one is plan for the new year. And I want to talk about how I do my personal planning and then the planning for the church, because this is very vision driven. I'm trying to get the heart of God in it. I'm trying to really be a shepherd pastor. Like, what does this church need? What does this staff need going into 2024? And I do this between Christmas and New Year's. Now, I would just encourage everybody listening to find, it doesn't have to be that week, but you need to find a time, if you haven't already done it, to sit down. And for me, I like a full 8-hour day, but I would say at least find half a day where you can plan. I'm going to shut the door, shut out the world, and I'm going to plan. I'm going to plan my calendar. I'm going to plan, my travel. I'm plan thematically. I'm planning the series throughout the year. I'm planning where I want to put guest speakers, the number of Sundays I'm going to speak. Now, I do it all in pencil, Matt, because things change.
Right.
Okay. But I'm still going to plan for it. And I brought my calendar with me here today, and I do it in pencil with a paper calendar first. My digital calendars on my phone or my iPad, that's when it's gone permanent. But I do my planning with paper, and I've already got every month's got something on it. Like, here, I want to do our marriage conference here, and I'm going to travel here, and I'm not going to travel here because this is important. I already know when Easter is. I'm looking through. And what happens is, this is an important concept for people to learn, and that is I'm putting in placeholders so that when somebody says, hey, do you want to, and I can, oh, no, that's already planned. Can you find another week for that? Because I know I'm holding that. Like, we have a family vacation week that if I didn't placeholder it, that somebody could say, hey, can you come speak for our church on so-and-so date? Yeah, I'm free. No, I've already got a placeholder there for that. But I haven't talked to the family about what we're going to do this year for vacation. It's just there's a placeholder. And that's what I mean. But when you plan things, put in these kind of this big rock concept. And then I brought another tool that I will use the last week. And I've talked about this tool before. In fact, Michael Hyatt and the team at Full Focus Planner ought to give me or the college some kickback here, because we've sold a lot of these. We're going to try to get him on the show. I'm such a fan of this tool called the Full Focus Planner. And I don't get a penny to mention this, by the way. This is something I deeply believe in, and that is it gives me a way to have a daily page of tasks. I've talked about this before, but the most fun I have with this planner is in that last week of December, because the first part of it is they recommend you coming up with 6 to 8 goals, major goals for the year, all personally. And I love this exercise, Because after you set the goal, you can even walk through the motivation for it, the reward for it. What's it look like? What does it look like? How will you know when you've accomplished it? Is that a habit goal? Or is it, what are you trying to accomplish with this? Or is it a numeric goal?
Right.
And I just love the tools so very much. And I just want to encourage, the bottom line is I want to encourage everybody to have some type of planning for the new year.
In fact, I remember 3 or 4 years ago for Christmas, Pastor Chris always gives the entire staff a gift. And it's gotten more challenging the larger we've gotten, but this was the gift that every staff member got. Every staff member got a full focus planner. And I'm going to be honest, when we got them, I was like, man, that's like personality-wise, I was like, we got a planner? And it has changed my life. Just to have the ability to, and I know personality matters in calendaring and everything. We have different personalities. There's so much freedom in this, though, because if you don't fill it up with what you want to do, you're going to end up saying yes to everything the rest of the year and just chasing the year instead of living intentionally all throughout the year.
It's the old, you just shoot the arrow, then you draw the target around it versus setting some targets. And I'm not saying I hit the target. Half the goals that I had for this year happened and the other 4 didn't. They came close. I wanted to lose a whole lot more weight than I did. All right, so there's a lot of things that I have in here that didn't happen, but I still spent a week with a target. And I think you live your life so much better if the target's drawn before you pull the arrow back. And so we're going to reflect on the past year. We're going to plan for the new year. And then here's the last one I want to encourage everybody to do in these last few minutes on the podcast. And I want to say this as strong as I can. This is not cliche. This is huge. Can I say it? Can Please. I say it like I'm thinking it? People want what we have, but they don't want to do what we do. And I'm telling you, you've got to get God's blessing on your new year.
That's great.
And how do you get God's blessing? There's a lot of ways, but the best way is to give God the first. Give God the first. Tithe the year to him, so to speak. Go into the brand new year saying, before I go on vacations, before I spend a bunch of money, before I lead a church, I'm going to give you the first and I'm going to give you the best. And of course, our tool for that is the 21 days of prayer and fasting. And I want to encourage every person who's maybe never tried 21 days, that intensive of a focus on prayer. I'm talking to you personally now to do that, to go ahead and start the new year that way. Now, we do start not on January 1st. We start on the 7th because people are still traveling. They're coming back. I'm trying to create something that people will actually do. So we don't, it's hard to ask people to do something on New Year's Day when people are still celebrating, having parties and things like that. You may want to start on January 1st. If you can, God bless you. But the fast and the 21 days this year is January 7th through the 27th. And I'm asking you to join me. I would love for every person that's listening to me to say, you know what, I'm going to fast. And I'm not going to break the fast. I'm going to get before the Lord and say, Lord, what am I going to give you? Right. What is this fast going to look like? And you've heard me teach on fasting. There's all different kinds of fasting. And if you're listening, you don't even know what I'm talking about, go to the Church of the Highlands website. And we'll give you all the fasting teachings, fasting resources, ways to fast. But not only that, but the prayer part. I want to encourage every person to go into this prayer season that I'm going to have a devoted, consecrated time before the Lord. And if you are the leader of a church, I'm asking you to join us in the 21 days of prayer and fasting. Let's all fast and pray together. Of course, I produced resources. We have prayer guides. I have a book I've written called Pray First. And by the way, this is the time to order it. I have made it available. I worked it out with my publisher where I don't receive anything from this so we can make it cost-effective for churches to get this tool into the hands of your people. And I have friends that have already called me, PC, we're ordering 1,500 books for our congregation. And if you want to sell them, if you want to buy them at one price and sell them at a higher one, knock yourself out. I just want this tool in the hands and of the people. And we'll put in the show notes, we'll put where you can get the bulk order of these books called Pray First. I have sermon outlines that you can download and preach. I would encourage you to even have at least one Sunday. I'm going to do it on the very first Sunday, January 7th, to talk about prayer, talk about fastings, and talk about giving God the first of everything, including our time. But Pastor, listen to me. If you want to have a great 2024, it'll be great if the spiritual part of your life and your church's life is great. We are not physical beings having a temporary spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience. We are spirit beings. And if your spiritual life this year in 2024 is good, the rest of your life will be good, because what drives everything. This is the message of Romans chapter 8. So I want to encourage people in this in a great way, and we'll give you the tools to do it.
It literally sets the tone for everything we do. I mean, I would say this, not even as a pastor, just as a dad and a husband. It sets the tone for my family. The way my kids have seen this, their entire lives, they've seen us participate in 21 days of prayer and fasting, and then 21 days of prayer in August as well. And it's changed everything about our family environment. So if you're a pastor and you're thinking, hey, we don't have the ability to pull that off, you can join us. You can literally log on in the morning and be with us, and we'll put those resources in the show notes.
Yeah, we have 1,000 churches that actually stream our prayer service in their auditoriums because they don't have the resources to pull it off, and they just want to do it with us. Join us.
Yep.
We'll give you a shout out in the mornings. Hey, so-and-so church is joining us. We have the tools. We're trying to do everything we can to make a 21-day prayer and fasting season a reality in your congregation. Here's what I'm going to promise, and that is if you put God first, his favor and blessing comes on your church and your life. And you're asking me, what's the best way to plan for the new year? God's favor. Start the year off with God's favor in your life. And I want to end with a quick little thought about fasting, because a lot of people don't know much about fasting. I actually, I was a pretty strict faster in the early parts of my life. I'm 60, and I started fasting when I was 19. I've done 41 fasts to start the year consecutively. All right, in the early years, they were pretty strict, like water only for 21 days. I got in my 50s, and it was hard for me to come out of the fast and get my metabolism going again. It was affecting me. In fact, my doctor, who is actually a member of our church, said, PC, you've got to stop fasting like that. I said, but I want to fast. And he says, why don't you consider taking some supplements? I still don't chew for 21 days, but I do some supplements, and I found a nutritionist that I have been using the supplements for. He's a strong believer, loves the Lord. And I said, I need a fasting-specific nutrition plan without chewing food. And he created a protocol for me that I've been using for the last 10 years. And I called him, Dr. Ted Broer at healthmasters.com. And I said, Ted, can you put the protocol on the website for people to get? And he said, yeah, because I get asked this all the time, Matt, what do you use? Because I talk about it. They want to know, well, what supplements do you use? They're like, I don't know. Go to this website. So he's put it in a protocol. If you go to healthmasters.com and click on it, it'll show the supplements that he's prescribed for me. Right. And there are many more, and they're not cheap. I'm so sorry for that, but I mean, it helps me out a lot. And if you can't afford it, do some variation of it. And he says, man, PC, do you want some kind of kickback for that? I'm like, no, sir, I don't. I don't want a penny. But he says, well, this is really going to bless our business. I said, well, then give whatever you'd like to give to Highlands College. That's actually what I told him. So the proceeds of this will actually go to Highlands College as well.
So what you're trying to say is every resource is available to you. And so just go learn more about fasting fast, make it a part of the way you're starting your year. You always kind of challenge us and the pastors you pastor with, you kind of honestly kind of read the spiritual climate and give us a little bit of a temperature on what to expect for the year. What does 2024 look like? I mean, there's some massive stuff happening this year. What does that look like for us?
So here's my sense, and I'm not a prophet, okay? So I don't say this prophetically. This is just my sense. I think 2024 is going to be a shaking year. I think with another election, we remember what the last one looked like. A national election with the economy that's, no one would deny that it's worsening, and with all the conflicts that are happening around the world. But that's usually when God shows himself the strongest. There's a verse in Hebrews that says that things are going to be shaken. Verse 27 of chapter 12 says, things will be shaken and removed so that only the unshakable things remain. So I would give a word of caution to everybody that I truly believe that this is going to be a shaking year, and we're going to find out. When you're squeezed, you find out what's on the inside of something. And so we have to be ready for that. But it's also a time when I believe God shows himself strong. And I have this word. I'm not officially declaring it. I will declare it in our Christmas service like I always do. But I'm pretty close to being something like this, Matt. And that is, I think it's going to be a year of miracles. But not miracles in the sense that whatever you thought when I said that word, like a body being healed, although I think that will happen. I'm talking about the miracle of unity in a year that's going to be polarized. I'm talking about the miracle of God's blessing in the middle of economic instability. I'm talking about a year of the miracle of God's peace in all the fear and uncertainty, and the miracle of growth in our churches and divine opportunities in a year where people are wondering if they're going to have to downsize. I truly believe that God will show himself strong in a miraculous way, and I'm this close to declaring it as the year of miracles. So we'll see.
Man, I want to go pray and fast right now. That's so encouraging. And hey, thank you guys so much for listening. And really, on behalf of the entire Grow Leader team, Merry Christmas. Have the best Christmas ever.
Absolutely.
Praying that a whole bunch of people in your cities, in your homes, in your neighborhoods, all meet Emmanuel, God with us, Jesus, this season. Bless you. We'll see you next time on the Grow Leader podcast.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And we also want to say a big thank you to all of our partners that help make the Grow Leader podcast happen each and every month. The first is Compassion International. For over 70 years, they have served the most vulnerable children in the world in Jesus' name. Through the power of the local church, they've impacted over 2.3 million children, and they're not stopping anytime soon. Learn more about how you can be a part of what they're doing at compassion.com/growleader. The next is our newest partner, Studio C. Studio C can help you know your people and grow your church. They combine strategy, technology, and communications to maximize church member engagement. You can bridge the engagement gap and transform your church's impact with Studio C. Learn more about them at their website. It's thestudioc.org/growleader. And finally, a big thank you to the Wesleyan Investment Foundation. For over 80 years, the Wesleyan Investment Foundation has helped churches with their borrowing and their investing needs. Whether you're dreaming of a new opportunity or seeking wise counsel about resource management, WIF can assist you. You can learn more about them at wifonline.com/growleader.